think mostly it's stop thinking that you need everything to be right to get started. You know, it's work with what you have. You know, like for me, I didn't have Wi-Fi. I didn't have high ticket. I didn't have anything that cost a lot of money. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have, you know, a cell phone that, you know, like I didn't have cell phone service. I didn't have a car. Right. And I could have like let those things hold me back. And I think so many people out there are thinking, I don't have this, so I can't do this. I don't have this. But back to very aware of the questions that you ask yourself. Don't ask yourself if you can do something. Ask yourself how you can do something.
Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. I'm joined in our mobile studio. We're still on location here in Orlando, Florida. We're attending a business conference and we're trying to get some content in at the same time, all because we care about you. You, the viewer, you, the listener, you, the individual who potentially can get vicarious learning through this opportunity. We're joined on set by Kristine Mirelle, and you're going to absolutely want to watch the entirety of this episode because I know the nuggets of wisdom that she's going to be sharing with you. Her trials and triumphs are going to be able to be that thing, that ingredient that helps motivate you to continue on in your journey. As you know, if you've been following me, my name is Edward Collins, and I honestly believe that the best way to shortcut your journey of success is to learn vicariously through others. And that's what we're going to do here tonight. So let's jump right in. Kristine, thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thanks for asking me to be here.
100%. I'm like, my team said, who can we ask? Ask Kristine. I want to interview Kristine.
Awesome. I'm so glad we made it happen.
Yeah, definitely. So as you heard, the motivation behind the show is that I really do believe that there's an opportunity for people to learn vicariously through the stories of other entrepreneurs. People have been through challenges and gotten through them, and especially those who have had milestones of success. And it's very clear to me that you've hit milestones of success in your life. But I don't want to start there. What I'd like to do is like go back in time and learn a little bit about who the young Kristine was like. Can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where you grew up, and what that was like?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in New Mexico.
Okay.
And my family, Mexican family, we grew up like government housing. We lived off like $100 a week. But my family was always like, you know, you can do whatever you want. So I remember that was like kind of always in the back of my head, even though like reality was kind of a little, you know what I mean? But I was never really like I lived in my head. Like I lived in this other world. So kind of seeing what was around me was one thing, but in my head it was like, this is temporary. Okay. So grew up there, Mexican family. My family's all from Mexico. They moved here. And then I moved to Roswell. That's where the aliens are from.
Yes,
so
yes,
seen that. So moved there. And then, you know, I was a musician. So I played piano and just had this really big dream of being a musician and traveling the world. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was like ready to get out and go see the world. Go see the world. Yeah.
When did you start playing piano?
So I started playing piano when I was 4. Oh. And I always tell everyone, I'm like, it was because we were so poor. So it's like we didn't have a cable, but I'm like, it was like a blessing in disguise because all I could do was play the piano. Okay. So if all you can do is play the piano, like you're gonna get somewhat good at it.
Reasonably good. Reasonably good.
Just some kind of good. And that was I just always started like that was such a blessing, you know, because that's all that I had to do. So it was cool, and that's what ultimately, you know, as I got older, I traveled the world and did a bunch of cool stuff, and because of that talent, you know.
Tell me a little bit about like the home life. Like where were things when you were growing up? Like you had brothers, sisters. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I had a brother and a sister. Well, I have a brother and a sister. They're still there, and they're younger than me.
Okay.
And then
so Kristine was the older sibling.
Oldest. Okay. I was the oldest. So yeah, they're younger than me. And my brother was here. He was dressed as Spider-Man. I don't know if you saw
at the business conference. Yes.
Yes, at the business conference. There was no particular reason. We just did dumb stuff because we're like, this would be so funny if this like confused everybody and had no purpose. And so we had a lot of fun with what we had. So it's kind of like, I know sometimes we were like, we didn't have anything, but it's like, I think when you're a kid, sometimes you don't know. Like, you know what I mean? If you just have like a water hose, like back in that day, it's like, this is fun. I just have my water hose.
That's the toy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know, I think you have an amazing sense of humor. I'm curious, like, where do you think you got that? Did you have a great sense of humor when you were younger, or is it something that you developed over time?
You know what? That's a good question. My family, I think we have a really terrible sense of humor. Like we get so dark. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like we were and I'll just give you an example. So my grandfather died, rest in peace. And we went to go see him, and he had these rings on, and my grandma was like, take his rings we'll go pawn them. We're just joking.
Right.
And then like the other side of the family's crying. And of course we're sad inside, but it's just, I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's just the way we always deal with everything.
Okay.
We always joke and we laugh about everything in really inappropriate ways. But I don't know. I think it was just that, like our family. And then also because everyone's musicians. Mm-hmm. So it's like once you get going, then it's like we just keep going and going. And then it just gets out of control.
Everyone builds on each other.
And they were like, I hope nobody heard that. They're going to think we're terrible people.
Okay. Well, what was school like? Were you a good student, challenging student? Like, what's your journey like?
Yeah. So I was pretty good at school, but once I decided that I wanted to be a musician, I was like,
you basically tuned out.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. And then I started selling stuff at school because I had started going door to door when I was 10 years old. So I used to sell like chocolate and like caramel apple suckers and all kinds of like random things. And was just like, I'm moving to New York City. I'm gonna become a musician. So I started going door to door. I started, mowing lawns and doing all kinds of different stuff like that because at the time we were living on like a farm. Mm-hmm. And so, school was just, I just kind of lost interest and just was like, I'm going to be a rock star. I want to like travel and do stuff. And then I was just selling stuff so that I could save money because I was going to, move to New York. So like kind of through high school, that's just all that I did. I sold stuff. I sold burritos. I sold, Capri Suns. I would go to the dollar store. The dollar store would give me everything for like half off. So I'd buy everything for 50 cents. Oh. And then I would sell it for $5. And so, little things like that.
Good margin.
So I was like so happy because I was like 17 and we were so poor. And so all of a sudden I would make like $100 a day was like, I'm so rich, and I was having like steak for lunch. So I was like, I'm a baller. I'm like baller. 17 buying my own steak. So it was just, that was such an eye opener for me because my mom was always like, hey, you should go to college and become a teacher and, different things that she was kind of just recommending. But when I did the like hourly breakdown, I was like, even when I was 10, I was like, I'm 10 years old and I just made like $40 an hour. Like, and I'm 10.
Oh,
like,
wow.
You know what I mean? If I'm 10 years old and I can do that, imagine what I can do, when I'm older. So it just didn't really appeal to me too much.
Wow. You actually had the mindset to be able to calculate the hourly rate.
Yeah.
That's
Because
at a 10-year-old age.
But I mean, like when you're really considering something, it's like, let me weigh out the options here. So I felt like that was just like what you had to do. It's like, well, is that what I want to do? It's like, it doesn't sound very fun.
Okay. So you decided not to go to university then?
Yes.
Okay. And so you graduated from high school, and then you went to New York? Did you make that jump? Or
I didn't leave to New York. I left home.
Okay.
And I started going to door to door selling my music.
Okay.
And then
let's step back for a second because I want to make sure I'm understanding the music environment. Like, so you were actually producing music while you were a high schooler?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was recording. So I had come across this like magazine that was like, you can order your own CDs. Okay. And I was like, okay, cool. Like that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So you can make your own CDs. And like the minimum order was
burn 1,000. Your own or like
you send in one CD and then they'll replicate it for you. Okay. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I went and so I ordered like 1,000 CDs and all the boxes came in. But I was recording the music and making it was god awful. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. The music was so bad.
It's better than I could ever do, I'm sure.
I don't know. It was kind of, some of it sounded like a dying cat. But
like I said, better than I could do.
But it was just cool to see that you could do it yourself. Like I didn't know that was possible. I thought you had to have like a record deal or thought you had to do that kind of stuff. So I was like, heck yeah. So I ordered 1,000 CDs and then I rented a booth in a fair, and I would just bother everybody that walked by and was like, you should buy my music. And that's like kind of just where I started out.
That's how you got it out there.
Yeah, and then continued going door to door.
Okay.
That's when I started selling the music door to door and was like singing on people's doorsteps and that kind of thing. So.
Wow. Yeah. You have a lot of stamina and poise to be able to do that at that age.
I don't know. You know what I think? Because I hated it. Like I really didn't like it, but the pain of not.
Comparison.
So it's like
when you say pain, because I want to unpack that a bit. Are you talking about pain from a financial standpoint, or are you talking about pain like non-fulfillment?
Like, not doing what you're passionate about.
Okay.
Like for me, it was, dude, if I can't do music, I don't want to live. Like that's just how I felt.
You were that passionate.
Like I was like, I would just rather die. Like that's how much I loved it, and how much the thought of doing anything else was just like torture. So for me, it was like, going door to door isn't fun, but doing anything else besides music is like death. Right. You know what I mean? So like huge, it's not really hard, and so as much as it wasn't fun, it was way better than the other option for me. And I didn't really, at the time I had no idea what to do, but it was just like, well, I need to get to people. So I'd bother them at their house You know,
they're captive
there.
audience.
You know what I mean? They're there. So some people got to open their door. So that was just kind of the way I looked at it.
Okay. And then you just walked around. Was it like in your local neighborhoods, or did you go to multiple towns? Like, what was that like?
So I did a few things. So sometimes I'd stay at Motel 6s in other towns. I had a little electric scooter, and I would plug it in, and then I would just like
take the scooter from town to town.
Scooter, yeah. And it wasn't even like it only went like 5 miles an hour, like tops. So I would put it in the back of my car, and I would go. Sometimes I had a little like posse of like kids that thought I was cool, so I'd have like 5-year-old. You know, I had the electric scooter, and they had their little bikes and stuff. And then I would go door to door, and then I would meet people, and I would also do. I don't know if you've heard of couchsurfing.com.
I have not.
Okay, so couchsurfing.com is kind of like Airbnb, but you don't pay anything.
Oh, okay.
So you just like email people and you're like, hey,
can I stay?
And then they'll have like a profile and it'll be like, I have a couch or I have a floor or I have a air up mattress or, you know, that's usually the situation.
Okay.
So I would just kind of stay random places all over the country in like New York or LA or whatever. And then I would go door to door selling my music on the streets or in neighborhoods. And then that's pretty much... Yeah.
Wow.
And we did that.
And then during that time frame, you were honing your craft. Were you studying more? Were you practicing more, or was it just you doing it was the practice?
Yeah, I was just recording. Okay. Yeah, I was recording, and then just kept on trying to, you know, I'd stay in New York for a while and record in different studios, and then during the day I would go, you know, just sell my music and try to, you know, get by. But in the meantime, I was like racking up so much like credit card debt. So I was like, you know what I mean? I just wasn't really, I hadn't figured it out. I just knew that I didn't want to do anything else. So I was like, I'd rather do this than anything else.
But I'd imagine a lot of artists have gone through similar boats where they haven't figured it out. They're testing, doing whatever they can to just get their music out there.
Yes.
Were you promoting your music at that time through like events and stuff, or was it just door to door?
So just door to door, but I was on MySpace at the time. And when I was on MySpace, I would spend sometimes like 8 hours a day, like just spamming everybody because MySpace was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it was terrible for everybody.
It
was great for me.
You do that.
Yeah, it was great for me. So I was like spamming everybody. And then I just started getting like a ton of reach. And then I was getting like 10, 20, 30,000 plays a day. Okay. And then I was hitting like, all of a sudden it was like, I had hit like the top 10 most searched artists in the world. And it was like, but it was a constant, you know what I mean? And I was giving away music for free. I didn't realize that those were like lead magnets. You know, I didn't know what any of those things were. You didn't
know all the technical jargon for it nowadays.
I didn't know any of this. And even when I was going door to door, I had like upsells and downsells. Oh. So if like somebody didn't want to buy a CD, I had like a raffle ticket. Or I'd be like, well, do you want to buy a raffle ticket for $1? And so if they had already said no about the $10 CD, they were like, well, what's $1?
Exactly.
You know? So then I was like, I had my like downsell.
Your price marinating.
You know what I mean? But I didn't know what that meant either. Exactly. I didn't know what a downsell was. I was just like, you know what? If I bet they'd give me $1. So, you know, they'd bring in an extra $20 or something a day because I'd knock at about 100 doors a day. And so like just kind of doing the math, I'm like, most of them will give me $1 though.
Wow. You know? And you thought about that before you were doing it, or is it something that just came to your mind when you were doing it?
Yeah,
was it like a plan?
Yeah, it was a plan. I went to Walmart and I bought like a big thing of raffle tickets.
Okay.
So it was just, and I did that at the fairs and like when I rented fairs.
Okay.
So sometimes I would see where there were fairs in like my state, and then I would go, if I knew friends there, I would stay at their house, and then I would set up my booth and sell my music there, and then I would have my raffle tickets too. So just like I knew even if they said no, they'd at least, you know, everybody has $1.
Right.
So like, yeah.
It was an easier sell after the no.
And after they've already rejected me, I knew they'd feel bad.
Yes.
So I was like,
yeah, can at least get something.
You know what I mean?
Get something for that
Yeah,
effort.
Exactly.
Okay. When you look at the transition from the door to door, because you eventually did make it to the stage, I'm curious, like, what was that journey like? Like, what did you do from the time you were doing the door to door stuff to the time you finally were doing stage, like actual shows?
Yeah, it got really hard because I was like, I had gone from like I was just involved in a lot of weird stuff. So I was like, and where I came from, it was just like I don't know if you know anything about like Chicano culture, but it's like very like there was
Fill me in.
Yeah, so it was just like if you ever watch those movies where they like have the like bandanas and they can't even see, like it's like covering their eyes,
part of the eyesight,
and then they talk like, "Don't look at my lady, eh?" Like that's how they talk. You know what I mean? Why are you looking at my lady? Like they talk like that, and that's just how it even comes out for me sometimes. I'm like I don't know, it just pops up. And so, but it was like really like all my boyfriends were like drug dealers and like. There was a lot of violent crimes. So like my first boyfriend died of like a drug overdose, and then like my second one like pulled out a gun on me and was like, told me he was going to kill me and like started shooting into the ceiling and like, and all that stuff wasn't even scary. It was just like this like normal thing. Like, hey, Bobby died this weekend. It's like, oh, rest in peace, Bobby. And then like, that's like it. Like, it was just such a weird, like when I look back at it, it was like like an alternate reality.
Right.
And
very
so,
surreal.
Yeah. It was very surreal. So like, that was just kind of, it was for everyone to be poor and broke was like a normal thought. Okay. Like it wasn't weird. It wasn't struggle. It wasn't, like I remember thinking, I thought that you were rich if you could afford Lunchables. I don't know if you know Lunchables. There's like the crackers and the ham and the cheese. And I was like, if you're really rich, you get the one with the Capri Sun and a little Snicker. You know what I mean? Like I was like, that's, and for me, that was my goal. I'm like, I'm gonna need to eat a Lunchable every single day. And then I'll know I made it. Mm-hmm. And so, transitioning for me was just kind of like, it just got so bad. Like there were so many bad things happening, like drive-bys and like me and just a lot of, situations. They shot out my car. So I had bullet holes in my car and all the windows. And so then it was like, maybe there's something else, like that was just this thought was like, maybe there's you know what I mean? But I don't even think I believed that there was. It was just this like little spark, like maybe there's something. And so then I was like, okay, I'm just going to get out. Like I'm going to like leave. And then I left to, Breaking Bad, like all that meth stuff.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's all. That's like,
that's what you're going through.
Yeah, just all that.
It was
like,
all surrounding you.
Yeah, and like a lot of those, like, yeah, it was just, that was normal life. And so then I left, and then I ended up in Vegas, and then I did couch surfing, but I ended up in like some weird Russian brothel. It was like super weird. Like I had no idea. So I'm like sleeping on the floor, and there's like 8 women, and like I came home, and like the guy that was running the brothel was like having sex with one of the girls. I just remember sitting on the pavement outside, like waiting for them to finish. And I was just like, this is better than like where I was. Yeah. I'm like, you know what I mean? And then the second thing though was I had played piano for so long. The second thought was, why am I here? You know what I mean? There's also like, I don't belong here.
Yes.
So I'm doing something wrong.
Yes.
So what am I doing wrong? Because I have something, like I play classical piano. Why am I in like this weird situation?
How old were you at this time?
I don't know, like 20 or something.
But you had, again, at still a young age, recognizing that you were not where you were supposed to be.
Yeah, it felt like I didn't belong there. But I also took responsibility for it. You know what I mean? It was also like, I don't belong here, but what do I need to do to get out?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What am I doing to keep me here? How can I change that to get somewhere else?
Exactly. Because I mean, a lot of people, like I tell people that I slept in my car and I bathed in gas stations and stuff like that. Like, and everyone's always like, so sorry you had to go through that. And I'm like, we live in America.
Right.
I chose to be home. You know what I mean? Like I could have gotten a job and I could have like, you know what I mean? And maybe it wouldn't have been the best situation, but like, I believe we live here and we can make money. I could have rented a house in someone's, I rented a room in someone's house or whatever and worked at a fast food restaurant. I would have been just fine. But I chose not to. So it's like, I never felt like bad about my situation. I just knew that I had to be responsible for figuring out how to get out of it. Okay. So I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just went on this journey to figure it out. Like, where can I find the knowledge? How do I find the knowledge? And I had no idea how, but just leaving alone, just leaving that environment was like the biggest step towards like getting out of that.
So that was the first step then.
Yeah, that was the first step. And then I like probably for 8 years, I just traveled all over the world, and I would like I went to like Africa, and I went to India, and I went to Asia and South America, and I would go teach music to like different orphanages and stuff like that. And then I would go by myself, and then I would just stay in these places, and it was wild. I'm so surprised that I'm not dead, but like I'd get chased by people. Like I'm running through like tunnels and like alleys and like crazy stuff. And then, but in my head it was normal. Okay. And then the next day I would go back to the like orphanage, and I'd be like, hey kids, let's sing some songs, and then like the next night I'm like running for my life. I don't know, it's just really weird. But but still it was just like one step after another. It was like just kind of getting somewhere closer. And then I started seeing, like, when I started doing more like kind of towards the last 8 years, I started seeing that there were other musicians that weren't as talented, in my opinion, but they were more successful. So I started saying, now I'm really doing something wrong.
Right.
And I'm really doing something wrong, and what are they doing right?
You could see the comparison between yourself, your skill sets, your talent level, at least your own personal belief about your talent,
Yes.
And comparing it to what you're witnessing outside.
Yeah, and that was really important because I think as entrepreneurs too, we think that if our product's better, then we deserve success. If we're a better coach, then we deserve success. And it's not about that. It's who's implementing better, who has a better process, who has and if your goal is to make money and turn this into a business, who's turned it into a business better? Because if your goal is just to be the best musician in the world, that doesn't mean you're going to make money. And so for me, it was what's going through my mind every day that's making me in this position, like that's putting me in this position, and what's going through their mind that's putting them there, because it's not a talent thing.
Do you think it's when you had that belief about the entrepreneurial position in the mindset, do you think most artists take that position?
No, I think there's a lot of sense of entitlement. Like, I'm good, I'm better than everyone on the radio, I'm better than, you know what I mean, I sing better, I rap better, I write better. But it's not, McDonald's doesn't have the best hamburger.
Definitely not.
Like, it's not even very good. You know what I mean? Like, we know that, but it's everything else about the structure of it. So I think that's what really hit me. It was just like, okay, the business is different than the talent. So that was really it was a big eye opener for me.
Then what did you do in response to that then?
So I just
because you're still young at this point.
Yeah.
You're still but you're outside the United States at this point too.
Yeah. I was leaving the United States and I was coming back. So
okay, so you're going back. So I was going back and forth.
And then I decided to move to LA, and so I moved to Hollywood, and then I was sleeping in a kitchen. So there was like a Craigslist ad. I was like, and even then it was still $500 a month.
Oh goodness!
So I was like, I'm paying $500 a month for a kitchen. So I was sleeping on kitchen floor. It's like, and it's like in this like weird neighborhood, whatever. And so then I was there, and then I got a call from somebody that was like, hey, there's a piano in this lounge. You should come and show up and you should play. And maybe they'll hire you or something. And so I was like, so at the time though, I was about to be homeless. So I was a week away I didn't have any money to pay for the kitchen anymore. So I lost the kitchen. I lost the kitchen. I didn't get evicted, but I had to leave the kitchen. So I was sleeping on a friend's couch and I had everything in my car. Everything was to my ceiling. And so I remember showing up to this really nice hotel and my car looks like terrible. And I was like, I'm going to like pull up and it's like fancy valet. And I'm like, the transmission's just going to like fall out of the bottom of the car. You know what I mean? Like, I just know this is about to like fall out and the like window's going to fall. I just knew everything's about to like go wrong. But I go inside and there's a beautiful piano and the guy's like, okay, can you play us a song? And that we know. And I was like, okay. And he goes, because this is the thing, like there's already people here, like there's already attendees that are here. We just need to entertain them. So he was like, can you play a song? And I was like, sure. So I played the one song that I knew because I always write music.
Okay.
So I played Rehab by Amy Winehouse.
Oh, yes.
Like, they try to make me go to rehab. And so he was like, that's great. Can you play another song? I was like, but I needed the job so bad. So instead of me playing another song, I was like, think. And so I was just like, well, this is the thing, like if I sing that, but let's say, and they want to dance, I'll sing it like that. But let's say they just want to chill and like drink wine, then I'll sing it different. I'll sing it like this. They try to make me go to rehab. I said, no. And then he was like, oh, that's great. He's like, can you play another song? And then I just kept changing it. And I'm like, but then if they want to dance, I'll sing. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, how do I make this guy stop asking me to play more songs?
Oh, wow.
And so I just kept going. And then finally he was just like, okay, you got the job. And then they paid me like $75,000 for the year to play. So I learned a whole bunch of songs like really fast.
Yes, wow, yes.
Yeah, and then it was just, and then that like changed my life because it just made me think of like music to me was I need to write a song and someone's going to notice me and someone's going to do it for me and someone's going to come and wave a magic wand. And instead this was looking at it like find venues that already have a built-in audience that you don't have to sell tickets for. And now you can come play in the middle of Hollywood at this beautiful hotel if you're just willing to learn these types of songs that this audience wants because now they're willing to pay you.
Wow. I mean, just that understanding, the perception of that reality. I mean, just think about it from a business perspective. I mean, that's literally the formula of success of any business.
You find out what's a problem.
Exactly. What is the issue that needs solving?
Yes.
And then solve that issue.
Yes.
You
exactly
absolutely go for direct market fit, product market fit.
Yep. And then also, like, what's the demographic What's the, you know, so you're looking at that and you're going, okay, they like songs in their 60s and 70s, you know, because I'm looking at their age demographic. I'm looking at their cultural background. I'm looking at all those things. And so then when I'd get asked to do other events, then it was the same thing. Like, who's in the crowd right now? Am I doing a Latin thing? Am I doing more of an urban thing? Like, what am I doing? So like formulating the set list for those people. So that was like, it was just looking at it like
It's customization.
Yeah, customization. You're looking at it like not what I want, right? Same thing in entrepreneurship. Not what do I want.
Exactly. What does
but
your
still
market
finding
want?
something you're passionate about, but what does the market need? And like you said, what solution can I provide for that market? So that was like the same thing, but in music.
Okay.
And so that's what got me into, wait, what? I don't gotta like hustle like I've been hustling. You know what I mean? And then that just changed everything.
Some
And then-
predictability of income.
Yeah.
Wow. So that I would imagine that laid a foundation where you could feel comfortable.
Yes.
With that comfort, were there also still challenges, or was it easy for you then to transition to the next phase?
Yeah, I mean, there were still challenges because I didn't, after a while, I was doing so many shows. So there was one year I did like 400 shows. And I had I was traveling all over the world, and it was fun. But
Multiple shows a day then, obviously.
Yeah, I would do like a couple a day, and mine were like 4 hours long. So they're not like 40, you know, they're long shows. So sometimes I'd be performing for 8 to 10 hours a day. And sometimes I'd book in Vegas. I'd be going from one casino to the next casino, you know, and it was crazy. And so then for me, it was like, okay, what's the next thing? And because I don't want to be doing this anymore. And I didn't want to be out till 2 o'clock in the morning anymore. I didn't want, you know, I was kind of at that point, I was like, I just didn't like it anymore. I had done like almost 3,000 shows, fast forwarded like over 8 years. And it was just, I knew again, I don't belong here anymore. So it was, now it's time to do something else, you know, but what is that thing?
What is that thing, right?
Yeah.
So what year was that you were wrapping up in Vegas then?
Well, I guess I was probably about 4 years ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
And with that understanding that you're done with that lifestyle, didn't want to be out till 2 a.m, hustling between from show to show to show to show, what went through your mind with regard to the type of transition you were looking for? Like, did you have a game plan, or what was it like?
No, I didn't have a game plan. I was thinking more music is kind of, that's all that I knew.
Right.
So I just thought something in music, but I was thinking that I would need to, now I need a tour and I needed more, or I needed to start playing for some, my friends play for like Beyonce and some of the big artists. So I was like, maybe I'll go play for them, but I didn't really want to. Again, I didn't want to be on like, I just didn't want to be on stage anymore. I didn't like having to be somewhere. I didn't want someone to be like, you have to be here at 2. Like, I just didn't want that anymore. And I knew that I was capable of doing more, but again, you don't know what you don't know. I just started like praying about it and meditating about it and going like, I will find something. As long as I'm searching for something, I'll find something. And so I just kept like reading and trying to figure out, you know, what to do. And then a friend of mine sent me Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets, and
that just changed your
and
life.
that was everything.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
It is by far one of the best books ever.
Yes, it was amazing.
For entrepreneurs, individuals who are looking to truly take their business to the next level.
Yes.
What was the most compelling thing about that book for you?
The thing that hit me was, I thought to teach people, I'd have to be in this, like, I needed to achieve world stardom. You know, like, nobody cares about somebody like me. I'm not like, I have my like little fan base and known in that small space, but it's not like I'm Jennifer Lopez. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, I have to reach this level before anybody even cares. But what hit me with him was, he said, are you in a position where people wish that they could be there? And I thought, I'm making a living as an independent musician, like that alone. And I was making 6 figures at the time. So it was like, I'm making 6 figures as a musician now. Only, you know, like having fun stuff and getting paid to travel. Like, at the time I had done some tours through like Tahiti and Bora Bora, and I traveled every continent of the world at that point besides Antarctica. But, you know, so I had some really cool experiences. I'm like, a lot of people would want to do this.
Right.
You know, and so it was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to teach musicians how to do what I just did for the last, 8-10 years.
Okay.
That was the big aha.
The aha.
Yes, is I can sell my knowledge.
Okay. And that, obviously, that was a turning point from a mindset standpoint.
Yes.
But it wasn't just an easy switch that was being flipped.
Right.
So what was the thing that you did after reading that book that put you on the trajectory you're currently on now?
Yeah. So I started working on a course.
Okay.
So I was still performing, but during the day I'd start creating a course. Okay. And it was where I was going to teach musicians how to book shows like without a fan base, without social media following and all that kind of stuff.
Which is the vast majority of musicians.
Yes, the vast majority of musicians, just teaching them how to do what I did, like learn cover songs and then sing in these types of venues. Mm-hmm. And so I started creating it. And then I got pregnant. Okay. And then I was just in like it was just not a great situation. And then my son's father left. Mm-hmm. And so then kicked me out. And so then I went and I was living in a garage for months.
While pregnant?
So I was like 4 months pregnant. And so I lived in the garage for a few months. But I remember Russell saying you could hold a webinar. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, so I finished my course and I was like, I could hold a webinar. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hold a webinar. But I was too scared to do a live webinar. So I did the auto webinar first.
Okay, yes.
And then I reached out to like a vocal teacher, mm-hmm. and I was like, hey, I noticed that you have a lot of like people that watch you on YouTube. Maybe you could invite them to this thing and I'll give you half, Wow. And I didn't really know.
You didn't know about the
I didn't know, I didn't know about all that stuff. No, I didn't know I didn't know that stuff, but and then he was like, okay, I'll do it. And so then I ran the automated webinar and I just like watched and I waited and I got like a sale. Oh. And I got like ended up getting like 4 sales that week. And like it ended up making like $4,000, and I was just like, I just made $4,000. That's crazy.
By teaching someone something that was up here.
Yeah, it was
insane. Down into a course.
Yeah, and then I got the courage to do a live webinar. Okay. I was still in the garage. And there was like I have my water softener in the garage, and it was so loud. So it was like, and so I was like trying so hard to like teach them, like, you can do this, guys. And it's like, and then it was making weird, like just all this stuff. And I'm just like, everyone's gonna be like, what is happening? But at least they couldn't see me. I was just doing it off the slides. Okay. Because there's no way that I was gonna here in my garage, guys, you can do this. But I was pregnant, so I didn't want to be performing, and I did a little bit, but I knew that what I was selling, I had done, and even though my situation right there at the time was like not the best because I couldn't be out working and performing, that was another reason why I was like, it just takes one situation for your income stream to be gone, right? Like you're pregnant, so it's really hard to perform. I'm in pain. I had gained 40 pounds. My back, everything was hurting. So it's just like, if you physically can't create income, you need to have, what do you do with this?
Exactly.
And then I had my son, and then it just got really hard, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do any webinars and all that kind of stuff. And I was still living in Vegas. Okay. And that's when I decided to move to New Mexico with my parents.
Go back home.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that transition like for you? Because you had been away from home for a while at this point.
Yeah. I promised myself I would never move back to New Mexico, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to live with my parents. I'm grown, but I just needed the help. Like raising my son was just too hard, and he was like, "What is that movie? The Exorcist."
Oh goodness.
He was like demon possessed, man. Like he just would not sleep. Like the scene where like the head's like spinning. It's like, oh goodness. That was my son every night, and I'm like, I gave birth to Satan's child. Like it was so bad. Yeah. And I was just like, and I tried so hard, like, and it was just, I was so exhausted. I was just, you know what I mean? I had nothing. And then COVID hit. And then it was like, so even if I wanted to do shows, like it was just all gone. And then all the riots started happening. Mm-hmm. And then I was scared for, like, if I got stuck or if there was a riot in my area, like my son's in danger, exactly. And so now it's like you're putting a child before you and you're going, I want to be here, but what's the best situation for him? Right. And so that's when I was like, I'm going to go to New Mexico because they live on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Right. You'd be
you're
safe.
Going to riot. There's like 2 people that live in like a 5-mile radius. You know what I mean? Like exactly. There's nothing you're going to riot at the cornfield. So that's why I chose. I was like, and then plus I knew my parents could help me. My mom would be happy to have me there and to see her grandbaby. You know what I mean? So that was why I, moved there. I was not happy about it, and I was really depressed, honestly, most of the time, and it was really, really tough. But I made the decision, and my actions were what created that situation as well. Like I would say, everything that you do, like I've really just thought like everything is your fault. Like just always remember everything is your fault. If you chose that partner, if you chose to have a baby, you chose to, learn this skill instead of that skill, like it's your fault. All of it's your fault. So, but if it's all your fault, people might get upset about that. But what's amazing about that is if you know it's your fault, then that also means, it means that you had the power to put you in that mess, but you have the power to get you out. So again, it was like, okay, I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't have all these things, but I know I can still sell my knowledge.
This is in New Mexico.
Yes.
No Wi-Fi, no capability, but you still have this knowledge base.
Yes.
But now because everything you were doing was over the internet at that point.
Yes. So then it was like, and I'd only done a little bit, so I'd only gotten a taste, but the taste was delicious. Was like, that's possible though? I just did that? Like, so it's like, okay, there has to be a solution to this situation, and that's whenever Russell was like, hey, you can run paid ads. Yeah. And then I was like, wow, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's the solution.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because again, I think a lot of business owners, regardless of the industry, don't understand how marketing works today with technology. How were you introduced to the paid advertisement environment? How did you learn about that?
Well, I had seen other people do ads, and I remember thinking, like, is that how I have to do ads? Where people are like, I want to tell you about my product. Like,
the boring ads.
And so I was just like, I guess that's what I have to, I don't know. Is that what I have to do? You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, that's weird. But I saw that they were running. Right. I saw they were getting sales. So I'm not going to hate on it. It's working. Yeah. So I was just like, okay, it's working. If it can work for them, it can work for me. I just need to figure it out. So it was just, he just said, hey, you can automate all these things. You can automate all of it. So you can run an ad that's automated. You put your credit card in. You can go to a sales page that's automated. They can buy something, and then it can go into a funnel. And then you have other OTOs and upsells where you can sell something else and then sell something else. And then, so it was just like, okay, that means I don't even have to be present. I just need to set up the process. And then once the process is created, then I just
let it run.
Then it just runs.
Okay.
I was like, that's like magic.
So if you didn't have internet at home then, at home you just spent time building out the process?
Yeah. So what I did was, my mom would come home, and I didn't have a car either, and she worked all day. Okay. So whenever she got home at like 7, I would drive into town.
7 p.m.?
Yeah. 7 p.m. I would drive into town, and then I would go to like either like a tortilla factory, or I would go to like a friend's house or something, and then I would try to like build, funnel or whatever.
Get access to the internet.
Yeah, get access to the internet. Okay. And so, but it all made sense though. There wasn't really like, I feel like there wasn't like a huge educational space. Like I'm kind of the person that's like, jump in the water and then figure out how to swim. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I don't like to plan, or, cause I feel like that's like it's a handicap, honestly. Like I always felt like my conversation with God was always like, hey, if you just listen to what's in your head, you already know. Just don't listen to what anybody else thinks. Like, you already got it, so just go do it. So I always felt really empowered by that. So I didn't really have any fear in trying, because I knew if something failed, then I would just try something else. And eventually something had to work. Okay. So there wasn't a big educational space. Instead, it was just like, create an ad, build a funnel, and then that's all. Like, and so I put together a book. So I created a book. Okay. And I put together a list of like blogs and websites and Spotify playlists and stuff that musicians could use to promote their music. Okay. And then I put together some tutorials to show them how to write the editors and how to create a press release and that sort of thing, so that they could get published. Because I had been on like Fox and NBC and CBS. Like I had done a lot of cool things, and so it was just like, this is how I did it, and I didn't spend any money, And so it normally costs you $1,000. So I put together that book. That was my first offer. Okay. And then I just started creating ads that were, fun and engaging, and just got them to look at it. But, like today, or yesterday, like the presentation that I gave here was talking about, like, I knew that, like, if people were scrolling down the internet, you're competing with all these other headlines. You're competing with like all these other like bizarre, like dolphins took over Mexico or whatever it is. Whatever it was. Right. Yeah. So it's just like, you got to be like eye catching, because I did see that everyone else was saying that you test stuff in your funnel. You need to test headlines, and you test buttons, and you need to test copy. And I couldn't do that. So I said, well, if I can't do that, then what can I do?
You couldn't do that because of the lack of
Because I didn't have
internet.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Lack of
so it's just
internet.
like, whatever headline I put has to work, whatever copy, whatever.
Okay.
It just has to
It
work.
just has to
That's
work.
just going to be that.
Okay.
But I knew that if they were if I could just get more clicks than normal, then that would make up, right? So like if you get 10% of 1,000 people to buy whatever, that's 100 people.
Right.
If you get 50% of 200 people, that's still the same amount of
exactly.
people. But if I just get more people in the room, right? If I get
right.
more people to see the ad, then I could have the same results. And so that's just the way I saw it. So I was like, what crazy stuff can I do to make people click on this ad? Because I believed in what I was selling.
Right.
And that was how my journey getting into creating ads started.
On the paid ad side, it
Yes.
was definitely, let me figure out how can I get the most attention possible with the least amount of time commitment and technology commitment, right?
Yes.
I mean, because at this point, you still had not launched your successful funnel. You were
Right.
getting ready to launch it.
Yep.
You had had experience with some taste of success with the webinar, but it wasn't running full speed at this point. So how did you come up with the dollars to do the investing in the ads?
Well, I only spent $60
Oh.
the first day.
Okay.
So I spent $60 and it made like $100 or something.
Right. So
And
the
then-
math just made sense.
Yeah. So it's just like each day, because you get response so quickly. This isn't like television advertising where you have to spend $5,000 for the month
Exactly.
and then you just wait. You're like, I hope I make money.
Yeah.
That was like $60 to make $100. The next day it's like, oh, I'm going to spend $100. And then you make $150 that day. Oh, well, I'm going to spend $150. And now you made $250. So, and then by the end of the month, I had spent like almost $13,000
In ads.
in ads, but I had made almost $50,000
Wow.
in the first month.
Wow.
And then it was like, what is this? Like what's happening? It was just so weird. And then plus, because I didn't get to see all the results, it's not like I could check it all day. So every night I went to get internet, when I'd see the numbers, I was just like, is that, I'm hitting like refresh, like, is that
real?
right? Like, is that actually happening right now? Like, what's happening? And then, yeah, like I just became obsessed because I with like turning people who never knew who you were, like complete cold traffic, into buyers.
Right.
That
That journey is not easy,
No.
but you perfected it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I didn't perfect it. I don't want to say I perfected it, but like figured out something that worked, like you don't have to have it all together to work. Like my funnels were terrible. Like I would say it actually wasn't a funnel. The first one was just a page that was like, hey, you want to buy my book? And after you bought my book, it's like, thanks for buying my book. And then that was all,
Right.
You know what I
That's it.
mean? And then eventually I started adding other books and other funnel steps because I didn't know what a funnel was. I didn't really get it. Like, again,
Well,
I
think
didn't
a lot
have,
of business owners don't know what a funnel is. So what do you, when you say funnel, what do you mean by that?
so like when someone lands on a page and you're selling something and they buy it, on the second page, it gives you another offer. And it's like, hey, I know you bought this book. And so my offer was, to show them how to get their music on Spotify playlist.
Right.
The next one was, hey, do you need a booking agent? So then I made a list of all these booking agents. And just like, so it's just another thing that I knew musicians would be
Logical
interested
progression.
in. And then the next one was, are you looking for record label A&Rs? They can submit their music to record labels and movie companies that get music on film and, those types of things. So each thing was just something similar
Okay.
that I knew that they would find interest in. And so by the end of the funnel, they had bought like maybe 3 or 4 books from me
Okay.
and that sort of thing. So that was my funnel.
Okay.
And then I had no high ticket or anything like
No
that.
high ticket. That's what I was just going to ask.
No, I
No
didn't
high
have-
ticket at that point.
No, I didn't have any high ticket. I couldn't do webinars. I didn't have coaching programs. I couldn't do one-on-ones because I couldn't even get on a phone call because
Right.
literally out in the middle of nowhere, had no cell phone service and had no Wi-Fi. So I knew that was going to just be a train wreck. So I just focused on the funnel.
When you look at your situation at this point, so you had now started to launch your funnel. You have started to get some reasonable income coming in based on the ad spend that you were putting out there. I'd imagine you were also collecting all of the data on the people who were taking these courses from you, right? You were collecting a list, you were putting together an email list. Did you start to market to that list at this point, or what was your process to continue down that channel?
Yeah, so I did, Russell and Expert Secrets talked about having an email sequence.
Okay.
So I did, and I would write emails during the day, and it was the same thing. I'd go set them up, and then I would put them into the automated email sequence. So anytime someone bought a book, I had so much time to write at home because I didn't have anything else going on.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean? So I'd write these emails, and so eventually I had an email sequence that like right now, if someone buys something from me and I died tomorrow, they'd hear from me for like 2 more years. Like they would just still get like
goodness.
it might even be 3 years by now. They'd be like, why am I still getting emails from her? She's dead. Yeah, it was crazy. So it was, I just kind of wrote, and then I would just add it, and then I would, so then I saw that it was making more and more money, and then I started calling other people and saying, do you want to sell this book? I'll split it half with you. The same thing that I did, with the webinar. And so then kind of white labeling the book for other people and kind of doing different things like that. And so then I just kept using that email list, and then I started doing YouTube. Okay. I took a YouTube course and started advertising on YouTube, and then, just kind of was like, what's the next thing, and like and just kept doing that for like a year while I was there in New Mexico.
So this is all now into 2021 at this point.
So I think so.
You're into 2021.
Yeah.
When did you feel that you actually hit your stride? When was it that you felt, listen, I got this down now. I know the methodology. I can do this in my sleep.
Right. Yeah. Like I think like probably month 3.
Okay.
I was like this, because you don't know if it's just like some lucky thing and
Absolutely.
It's going to go away.
Absolutely.
So like month 3, I was like, you know what? I think I got this. And I was like, I bet I could do this for like other companies. Mm-hmm. And I had a friend that had a cologne company. And he wasn't profitable online at the time, but he was really profitable offline. So it was like, to me, it was a proven product. It was a proven offer.
Right.
But they just weren't selling online. It wasn't profitable. Right. But I was like, you know what? Let me build this out for him. So I had a conversation with him, and I was like, you know what? There's this thing I discovered. It's called funnels. But it was kind of the one thing that I thought that was like, if you're selling cologne and nobody can smell it, are people going to buy it?
Exactly.
That was so. I was also like curiosity. So anyways, I built all the funnels and email sequences and built everything out. And we just did like a rev share model. So I did a 50-50 rev share model.
Okay.
And then I created an ad for him, and I didn't even have the cologne. So this time I didn't even have the cologne.
Oh.
So instead, what I did was I was like, check out this cologne. And then I like point to it, and it'd be like, ding. And I put like a little image of the cologne.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'd be like, it was just ridiculous. And then I was like, just making it fun. And then if you use this cologne, you're not only going to smell amazing, but you're going to attract the ladies. And then there'd be like pictures of ladies pop up.
Okay.
Right. So there'd be all these like ladies around me. Like it was just all stupid because I had no humans.
Right.
And I had no cologne. Because I was in New Mexico and the cologne company's in Vegas.
Okay.
So I was just like, but I want to make an ad now. I don't want to wait for like cologne to show up or something. And that did almost the exact same numbers as my book did. So it did like almost a 4X, so I spent something like 11 or 10, I don't remember the exact numbers. I spent, let's say 10 grand, and it made 40. So I was like, what did I find? Like, this is crazy, So then I just kept on making just these ads, and they're just funny. You know what I mean? I would be like, jumping on a trampoline, or I'd be like mowing the lawn, or I'd be like juggling oranges, or I'd be, you know what I mean? Just like stupid stuff, or I'd be like, punching an inflatable llama, like just stuff that had nothing to do with anything, I'd be wearing like a clown wig and holding like, I'd put like fake fire and everything's on fire around me. Like none of it even made any sense. But then I would talk about the problems that they were having and talk about how my book was a solution, so nothing that I was physically doing really made any sense.
Right.
But what I was saying made sense.
The copy behind it.
Yes.
Made sense.
And then when they landed on the page, there was like real information about it. But the ad itself was like, I just need to get them to click on it because, if you could have a cure for cancer, but if someone's scrolling and they have their audio off and you're just standing there going like, oh, what's that guy doing? You know what I mean? Like they're going to miss the most amazing offer in the world. So I believed in my offer. So I just was like, I just need people to get there. And at the time, like, I know a lot of people get like real nervous about like what people will think about them, that sort of thing. But I really think as much as like, because the numbers were crazy. And as much as people were like looking back at it now, people are always like, it's really like crazy that like, despite the challenges you were able to do those things. I think actually the vocabulary needs to be changed. I think it's not a despite, it's a because of. So when you have challenges, and I think this is like even the message in the presentation that I gave yesterday here at Funnel Hacking Live, it was like work with what you have, but also like your perspective, like it completely changes your reality, right? So it's like for me, it was like a blessing that I was so tired and exhausted and busy. I didn't have time to think about what anybody thought of me. You know, like I didn't have time to think of what if this fails? What are they going to think of me? Am I going to look like a failure? You know, I didn't have any time to think of that stuff because I had this like screaming baby that I was just like, you know, and I was exhausted and I was breastfeeding. So it was just like, let me just get something done. And it was the same thing with the ad. It was like, let me just get this done. And so I think when you think too hard about things, sometimes like it gets, you don't do it. You don't do the thing. So it was like for me, even when we shot the very first ad where I got like, we did like 30 million views or something.
Wow.
And it was where I had the horse, an oranges, lawnmower, and a toilet in my backyard. And that was where I was like juggling an orange and pushing a lawnmower. And then I come to the toilet and my brother's sitting on the toilet. And I'm like, I know all you guys are sitting on this toilet right now, but y'all should have been promoting your music.
Right.
You know, and even that one we only shot like twice because my son, he was in a little walker and I like pushed him into the laundry room and he was pissed. Oh my God, he was so mad and he was screaming and he was like, ah! Like, and he like, I swear it's a scream. It's like poltergeist. It's crazy. So I was just like, oh my God, like we have to shoot this in 2 takes because by the time like, you know what I mean? Like that's all, like we had to do it. And the only reason it even took 2 takes was because I messed up on the juggling on the oranges. Yeah. And then like I'm doing it and like, you know, and it's hard because you feel bad. Your child's in the laundry room screaming, but I'm like, but I gotta take care of you. So you know what I mean? I gotta feed you. So
exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're doing everything for him, eventually. So
So and that was again, I felt like that was like a blessing in disguise to not have any thoughts of like, is this gonna fail? Because it just didn't matter. It was just,
but it seems like the thing that you perfected was the concept of the pattern interrupt.
Yes.
Because that's literally what you were doing. I mean, you were using the humor component to it because that just seems to come pretty natural to you. But you had the foresight, or maybe it's by accident. I don't think so. But you had the foresight to understand that doing what you were doing was going to get the attention, that maybe they take it off of mute and they actually listen to the ad, or they at least stick on it if you're using captions and they can at least read it and get through it. That's pretty brilliant. I mean, when you look at what just go to Facebook right now, you don't see that often. You see maybe Harmon Brothers doing something that's kind of crazy, but beyond them, there's not a lot that happens that in that type of pattern interrupt environment. And do you think that has been the key to what has gotten you to where you are?
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's hard. I feel like I'm still figuring it out. You know what I mean? Like
we all are. You know that.
Yeah. So looking at it, I just started looking at the ads that were working and that weren't working, and it was most of it was a consistent pattern interrupt, like just whatever we were doing, just every sliding down a slide or whatever. You know what I mean? Like going from one thing to the next thing, from scene change to scene change, humor, doing something funny, doing something they were not expecting. I think that was a big one. But then I also had some ads from just like I shot an ad where I was walking through the cornfield talking about having a music career, and it has nothing to do with anything, right? I'm in a cornfield.
Yeah.
And there's like a goat, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just so like, so, and I guess they watch, maybe they're just interested. They're curious. I noticed even something like that, like when I would walk, those would perform better than when I didn't walk. So I was like, maybe they're just wondering what they're going to see behind me, right? And then like just funny stuff. Like I did one where I bought those like big inflatable things that you wear. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like they go all around you.
Like ball, like almost like a soccer ball type thing. Yeah, you're inside of it. Though.
Yeah, and it's all around. Yeah, and you're inside of it. And so we shot this ad, and where I'm just like, watch this, guys. And my brother, I don't remember who it was, they had one too. We like ran and we jumped up and they hit me, and I went flying. Like I was not expecting it. I went flying, and we're in the middle of the cornfield, hit the floor, and I'm just like, do you want a booking agent? Like it has nothing to do with anything. But it was just, I think it was fun. And sometimes I think that like, I feel like everybody's like a kid still, you know what I mean? Yeah. We just like suppress it because we're like, I gotta be serious. And so I think maybe they just, I don't know, maybe they related to that. I really don't know. I just know that it works, you know? So, but I don't know what goes through people's heads yet. All I've gathered is like, I feel like people just feel freedom, or maybe they feel more connected, and like you're a real person.
Correct. The authenticity of you just being you.
Yeah.
It's not a character, that you just are. This is who you are. You enjoy having fun and laughing and just doing sometimes some silly stuff.
And I think also like sometimes when people have like regular jobs and they're giving rules,
yes,
that starts to become who you are, because you're like, I can't do that because of this. I can't do this because of this. And I can't, I have authority and I have all these people that are going to tell me that I can't, and I'm going to get written up. And for me, because I was just in the entertainment industry, and because I was just like, I don't care, I'll be homeless and bathe in the gas station. You know what I mean? I didn't care.
Do whatever.
I do what I want. You know what I mean? But it was like, it's not like I was like living lavishly. I think it would be cool if I was like, I live what I want, I make all kinds of money. But I was like, I do what I want. I'm in my car,
right.
The jacket's on the windows, so people don't see me sleeping in my car. But that was still, I wanted my freedom more than I wanted approval. So I wanted my freedom so bad. So for me, there was too much pain in not having freedom than someone rejecting me or sending me hate mail. So it was just like, I don't care, I'll whatever, play in this cornfield and have fun. And I had never been given rules, so I'd never worked for anybody. So it's not like I had all this success, but I just had never worked for anybody. So I never heard from anybody that was weird or different, or, you know what I mean? I didn't even know.
Right. You didn't know what you
I just didn't even know. It was just like, that's just, I guess when you're a kid and nobody tells you you can't be a kid anymore,
right? You
still think you can be a kid. So that was kind of like a good thing, I guess.
Okay. And the remarkable thing, I think, too, is you were shooting all this on just your phone, right? You didn't have fancy cameras, fancy equipment. I mean, I know you had a background in the arts and being on stage and with real microphones and real light sets, but when you were building this new business out, you weren't doing it with a large budget.
No.
You were doing it with mobile phones.
Yes. Yeah, just cell phones. Yeah, no microphones, no team. Just my brother, his girlfriend shot the first ad. Mm-hmm. And then I looked on YouTube. We all have access to YouTube.
Yes,
it's not hard to edit a video. Mm-hmm. And then just edit the video and then just put it up, it wasn't, I think a lot of people get stuck in the I need fancy stuff.
Right.
And, and sometimes the wind was so loud, you could barely even hear me talk. I'm screaming, hey, you want a music career? Because, there's so much wind.
Yeah.
And it's so funny even here, people have come up to me and they're like, hey, I just want to tell you, no offense, but, the audio in your ads are really bad. And they're like, but it made me feel good about my ads. And I'm like, okay. They're like, your ads suck, but hey, that makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Because my ads suck too. I'm like, hey, whatever works. You know what I mean? I like the slogan, done is better than perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that was always just done is better than perfect.
Absolutely. And imperfect action beats perfect inaction every day of the week.
Yes.
Every day of the week. And I think that's something that I wish a lot more business owners would understand, that you just have to do it. Just do. Take action, take control. And the reality is it's not that complicated. No. We make it complicated on ourselves.
Well, you know what else I think too? I was having a conversation with someone about this today, and I've never heard anyone talk about this concept, and I feel like maybe one day I'll give a whole speech on it, but everyone always feels like they got to be great. Mm-hmm. So everyone goes to seminars and places, so it's so that they can believe in themselves, so that they can believe that they can do it, so that they feel like they're good enough, and that they have imposter syndrome. And someone asked me, have you ever had imposter syndrome? I said, no, I've never had imposter syndrome. And they're like, why not? I said, because I've seen dumb people make so much money.
Right.
You guys are looking at you got to be great and you got to be so. I'm looking at all these idiots that have made so much money. I'm just thinking, I'm smarter than that idiot.
Yeah, so, we know some of them.
Yeah, so I'm like, if I'm smarter than that idiot, then I can make some money. You know what I mean? Then I must be a real idiot if I'm not. You know what I mean? What does that say about me if I can't? And then it's the same thing about music. It's where people are like, well, I feel like I'd be a better singer. I'm like, Britney Spears doesn't even sing in her concerts. So what lie have you been telling yourself that you got to be a good singer to be a professional singer? None of this exists. You don't have to be great. Yes. You just got to be kind of good. Now, that might be the most demotivating thing that a person says, but I'm like, you just got to be kind of good. And everyone else is like, you got to be great and believe in yourself. You just got to be a little bit smarter than that idiot. That's it. That's all,
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that if everyone saw it that way, that it's then imposter syndrome can't exist.
I cannot agree with you more, because I think that we all do get stuck in ourselves, in our own heads, and that those limiting beliefs about ourselves, that we're not good enough, we're not capable enough, our talent doesn't rise to X level. All of those limiting beliefs keep you from the dream that is a potential reality.
Yep.
And until you put it into action, you allow yourself to take those limiting beliefs and just leave them on the sidelines.
Yep.
Go out there and make it your own.
Yep. Yeah. Well, even in music too, there's this saying they talk about, because jazz musicians always have this ego. Oh. They're like, I'm so good because I'm a jazz musician and I know 500 chords. And then there's this saying that says, jazz musicians play 500 chords to 4 people, and pop musicians play 4 chords to like 500 people. You know what I mean?
Thousands of people.
Yeah, thousands of people. So it's just like the simplicity of like, sure, you're not, this guy's, sure, he's not as talented as you are, but he's making way more money and you're like living off ramen noodles. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to choose.
What's the measure of success we should be looking at?
Yeah, and what is it that you want? Because if that's what you want, then that's great.
Absolutely.
If you just, and that's your happiness. But in the world of entrepreneurship, where everyone's trying to make money, you don't have to be the best at your craft. You just got to, be kind of better than that other, dumb people in the business. Like that's all.
Oh. Well, Kristine, I love this conversation. When you look at your journey, what would you say was the most difficult thing you've been through?
The pregnancy. That was really tough. It was really tough raising my son for myself. So that was really, really hard. Like I was like, it was like I think it was just the first time that I like really felt like I just didn't want to wake up in the morning. Like, it was like, I just rather die. Like, this is just too much. You know what I mean? Like everything in my personal life had fallen apart. Living in the garage was really tough. And then moving to New Mexico was really tough. I didn't want to be there. And then raising my son. And, to be honest, it's like, it's a struggle as a parent. Like, I wasn't in love with my son when he was born. Like, there was a lot of, I was upset with myself for the decisions that I made. I was upset with, his father. I was upset with everything about the situation. Right. But I knew it was my actions and my choices. And so it was just like, how did I get myself here? Like, I know that I'm better than this. And it's just kind of that internal dialogue and I just remember being so stressed out. Like, I just couldn't eat, but I was trying to eat because I'm trying to breastfeed him. You know what I mean? Like, trying to keep myself in these. And then, like, as I'm so stressed out about money and trying to figure out how I was going to take care of him. So that was really tough. I think it was tough because it was such an emotional thing, like, and all the other stuff, like all the stuff I talked about with like the drug dealers and the, all the crazy stuff, the guns being pulled out and, some of them were physically abusive and, just all that kind of stuff I could deal with. But the moment you throw in like another human being and you throw in,
depends on you.
Yeah, then it's like I lost myself too. I always jokes because I always say like I looked so terrible. You know how your phone does the facial recognition thing?
Yeah.
It didn't recognize me for like 6 months. Like it just wouldn't work. Like it was just like it just wouldn't recognize me. And then all of a sudden when I started like kind of getting life back, it recognized me. It worked again. So I was just like, that's so crazy. But it was when I was starting to feel a little bit better. But I just looked like death. Like it was just, so it was really hard to go, I have to take care of this child. And you just the exhaustion. I've never felt that type of exhaustion because physically I'd lost my voice multiple times where I couldn't speak because it was just like, I'm just leaving, like I'm breastfeeding him, so all nutrients, everything's going to him. Your body does not care about you. Right. It's like, we got to take care of this baby, so we're giving everything to the baby. And then he was really tough because he just wasn't, he was really, what is the word when they cry a lot? Yeah, colicky. And so it was just, I didn't sleep for like 2 years. Wow. So for 2 years, I didn't sleep. So it was just like, and sometimes when I would create those ads, I'd have 15 minutes. It's just like, if I have 15 minutes, what do I have to do in these 15 minutes to produce the most amount of income? And that was all that I asked myself. If I can do one thing today, what's the one thing that will produce income? Because I think it's easy for us to go, I want to redo my website. I want to redesign my business card. It's like, what does that do? Does that actually produce income? So whenever you're looking at your to-do list, it was just like, if I can create one ad today, that, you know what I mean? Just if I can just
focus
create
on the thing that matters.
Yeah, because it's like the product's made. So if I can just make one ad that reaches millions of people, then that's going to be the most productive thing that I can do today. So it was just staying in that mentality of like, yes, you don't have these things, but you do have this. So focus on that one thing that you do well and just believe in that. So just kind of maintaining that and also trying to be funny, like being funny while feeling like you want to die is like a whole other thing, like that was like, okay, I don't even want to live anymore. But I know that if I make people laugh, right, and it was such a weird, it's just a weird, thought process. So it's just like, but I also thought of it as a gift because I remember I was doing a show. It was right after my son had been born, and then I was about to move to New Mexico, but COVID was right about to hit. Okay. And I remember being like so depressed and so sad, like I just wanted to cry. But I remember the whole room was dancing. And I remember thinking, as much as this sucks inside, what a gift to be like wanting to die, but to still bring so much happiness to people.
Right.
And I thought that brought me some sort of happiness. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like a really cool, I thought, how lucky am I? You know, because it's not like I'm working at a department store. Nothing wrong with working at that. But like you don't get that same type of love where people are like, oh my gosh, you know, I would get so much love. It's like, even though I felt like the world was falling apart, there's still this, I still built this skill that is still doing something for me. It's still keeping me moving. You know, I'm barely getting by, but like, I'm like a turtle. I'm just like, you know, the tortoise in the hare.
Yes,
I'm like,
you're still
I'm doing
forward.
this, but like, I'm still moving though.
Right.
You know, like that was the main thing. It's like, I'm still going. So I know I'll still get where I need to go, but it's like, maybe it'll take a little longer. But I thought that was, I don't know. I just thought that was like a cool gift to at least have that, you know?
And that brought you through and helped you to continue putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
When you look at so far where you've been and where you've come, what would you say is like the thing that has brought you the most joy then? Like we've talked about the most hardship or the most challenge, but what's the most joy?
Those two things, making people like dance and sing along, like, and I'll equate, like I'll compare. So I now focus on making people laugh, you know, whether from stage or on the internet, and it's amazing, right? And here I was teaching marketers how to use humor and to just use those natural things like as a kid that makes you laugh, that you have fun with, to now make more money and, you know, go out there. And I felt like I'm giving people freedom right now. And that's so empowering. Like I'm empowering people, and that's empowering for me. It's like I'm saying, hey, look at me, I'm a total idiot, but like, look, I'm like making some money, and you could too. And so I feel like people go, oh my gosh, I don't have to be so uptight. And that was really amazing. And the other thing that was amazing was I used to do like some big shows. Like I've done arenas with like 10,000 people in them. And I've done, you know, really cool shows where there's like wind and lights and lasers.
Yes.
You know, and I always thought when I would get off stage, I remember people being kind of scared to talk to me because you were like the coolest person in the room. And I remember thinking, like, that's what life is. You got to be the coolest person in the room. You know what I mean? Like, but then I was like, but then I'm like, nobody's talking to me. And, you know, and so then I remember I started doing these shows. Have you ever been to a dueling piano bar?
Yes.
And you sing like, you're singing like Eminem, Dr. Dre, you're singing Spice Girls. Yes. You're singing like, I like big butts and I cannot lie. Like you're singing the dumbest. So I had taken a gig playing in Hollywood where I would just sing most ridiculous songs, you know, ever. You know, if you're singing, I like big butts and I cannot lie. And I like big butts and I cannot lie. And everyone in the audience is like dancing.
They're just having a good time, yeah.
I remember going, and then everyone wanted to talk to me and everyone wanted to dance. And people would come up to me crying sometimes. And they'd be like, I remember one time a woman followed me into the bathroom and she's like, hey, and this was so powerful. And she's like, I just wanted to tell you I haven't been out in a couple of years. And she said, and her friends were there. And like her eyes teared up. And she said, I have cancer. And she said, I'm going to die in 6 months. She said, I told me to die. She said, but I had such a good time tonight. And she said, I was dancing and I was singing. And she's like, and there were times where like, I remember I was playing in a tiny little bar. There was a girl and she's like, I've never sung in public. And today you had me singing at the top of my lungs. And I thought it's the same thing. Like you're giving people freedom to be imperfect.
Yes.
Like we're singing, I like big butts and I can't. We're singing like, you know, sipping on gin and juice. Like we're singing Snoop Dogg. You know what I mean? Like we're singing the stupidest thing. And I'm like just sitting here on my piano and everyone's singing along. You know, that's so much freedom.
Yes.
And I feel like humor and ads is the same thing. Like you have freedom. And that's been the biggest joy. Like when I talked about playing, even though I felt like my whole world was falling apart, I was still making people feel like they could dance in public. That there was no judgment because I'm just singing all these ridiculous songs and I'm making people laugh. And even though they were imperfect, like sometimes they'd be like, can you play Dr. Dre? And I'd be like, I don't know, let me try. And there's like 300 people there.
Right.
And it's so imperfect. And nothing about it is perfect, you know, and I'm like, D-R-E. And everyone's like singing along. Yeah. And it's totally wrong. And I'm like, I don't even remember the rest of it. But they'd be so happy that I even tried.
Yes.
And I'm like, you're happy that I even tried? You know what I mean? I'm used to like everything needing to be perfect. My hair needs to be perfect. And all of a sudden, no, like being imperfect was so much more powerful. So I learned that in music, and that's kind of the same mentality that I carried on into this. So like speaking from stage is like, I just make a fool of myself, and like it's going to make people feel like they can too.
Speaking from stage now, You have courses where you assist other young and even older artists who just have not figured out how to get their foot in the door with the types of shows and events, et cetera. You help them. Now you're also helping other businesses with regard to their marketing and advertising and funnel building. I mean, it's quite an adventure from where you were to where you are now. That journey must have been amazing to get through.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember watching a Army commercial, and it was like, if your life was a story, would anyone want to read it? And I was like, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know, and if you kind of look at your life like that, like, I don't know, I feel like then you do more interesting stuff. You know, you would try more things, and you would be like, hey, this is just my story. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's kind of a cool thing to like look at your life. Like, is this how I want my story to be? Right. And regardless, whether you do or you want it to be interesting or not interesting, that's fine. That's your story. Whatever you want your story to be.
You're the author, the director, and the main character in your story.
Yes. Yeah.
You get to decide. Wow. I like, Kristine, what I do enjoy doing is I enjoy, for all the guests that come on this show, I enjoy getting into a thought exercise. And I would hope you would want to be willing at least to go down this journey with me for a minute.
Okay.
What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you have the ability to go back in time. And you can meet up with a younger version of you. Anytime in your youth, and anytime in your history, it could have been yesterday. You get to decide the time, but you get to share one thing with that younger version of you. The question I have is, who would you be going back to visit? Meaning, what age, what were the circumstances, and what would be the one thing you would share?
Oh, that's good. That's a really good one. Oh, that one's hard. I would probably go to, Okay, so when I was 13, I started learning how to build websites. So I learned HTML code.
Oh, wow.
And so I would build these websites for musicians that I liked, like TLC.
Okay.
I loved TLC.
Yes.
So I remember I created a website, and it was like the top 4 fan page of TLC. And I would just sit there and I would just wanted to beat everybody. It was more for like competition and ego and like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to beat everybody. And so I was like top 4. So I was doing all these things like kind of banner, you know, where you like exchange banner. I don't even remember what the right words were, but different things to bring traffic to the site. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could sell something. So when I look back at that, I think I would go back and I would be like, be very aware of the questions that you ask yourself. Because I think Mark Victor Hansen, I read it in one of his books, he says, be very aware of the questions that you ask yourself, because those are the answers that you're going to get. So if you ask yourself, how do I make $5,000 extra this year?
Right.
Then you're going to get like, get another job.
Exactly.
You know, but if you ask yourself, how am I going to make $100,000 this year? How am I going to make another $1 million this year? The answers start coming to you bigger.
Yes.
And so for me, I think I would have gone back and I would have said, ask yourself bigger questions.
Wow. Super powerful.
Yeah, because instead it was like, how can I have the best TLC website? You know what I mean? Like, so that was all I was getting, you know? Right. So I think that would just be like, ask yourself bigger questions.
Okay. The second component then to this thought exercise is I want you to imagine then for a moment that a future version of Kristine has come back to visit us today in this moment. What would she share with you?
That's a good one. Okay. I mentioned earlier about my conversation with God has always been, do whatever you think, Kristine. Mm-hmm. You have everything that you need. You have all the resources. You have everything. It's when you start listening to anybody else that you start messing up.
Yes.
And walking in faith, I think, is the most powerful thing that you can possibly do. And when I had first moved to Vegas and I was living in that weird Russian brothel, and I was sitting on that pavement and I was asking myself, how did I end up here? Mm-hmm. I remember going, I need to create a video. That's what I told myself. I need to create a video. I need to create a promo video, and I need to come up with a way to show the world what I have, because I didn't really have videos and stuff, and I knew that I could be performing. I knew that I had that ability. But I knew that a video was going to be really expensive.
Yes.
So I was like, this is going to cost me like $8,000. Like, I wanted to do this big production, have dancers and musicians and producers. And so, but I just kept on remembering like that, like, hey, God's always like, dude, just do whatever, just walk in faith. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any money, and I was like $15,000 in debt. And $15,000 in debt might have well been like $10 million into debt. You know what I mean? At the time, there was no way that I could come up with that at that point. Mm-hmm. And I remember I thought, you know what, I'm just going to just going to book everything. And I booked everything for 2 weeks later. And I booked the dancers, and I booked the musicians, and I booked the cameraman. I had like a 3-person camera crew, and I went and found a studio that was $100 an hour, and I booked that. I booked everything. I even opened it to the public, so I had an audience. I mean, it was just everything.
Wow.
And there was no way for me to make the money in my mind. But again, the conversation that I had was, all right, God, you know what? You put this dream in my heart, so this is your job. I'm going to leave this up to you, because I'm just going to say this is your fault, because I can't do anything else. I have to do music. And so I booked everything, and I was going door to door at the time, and I would usually make about $100 a day. So in those 2 weeks, I would have made like $1,400.
Right, nowhere near what you needed.
Nowhere near what I needed. And I went door to door, and I sold my 10 CDs. I made my $100, and I got a call, or I got a message on MySpace.
Okay.
And it was a gentleman, and he goes, "Hey, I want to give you a $300 donation. Would you meet me at a Starbucks? You can bring a friend. You know what I mean? Super cool. Bring a friend, and I just would like to ask you some questions." I was like, cool. There's gonna be lots more of these. I just already knew it was gonna work out.
Right.
And so I showed up, and I'm talking to the guy at Starbucks, and he was just kind of depressed, real estate guy. He was just he goes, "Why were you going door to door? That sucks." I'm like, I know, but everything else seems like it sucks more to me. I don't want to do anything else. Yes, going door to door sucks, but showing up at a job sucks, And so he just kept on asking questions, just nothing he didn't know my financial situation. Right. He didn't know anything about my situation. And then he goes, okay, so how do you spell your name? So I spelt my name, and he goes, okay, and he had already given me the $200, and he's like, I want to give you another donation. And then he goes, I don't know why I'm doing this. And he said, something tells me I'm supposed to do this. And he writes in a check, and he folds it, and he hands it to me. And then he goes, you never have to talk to me again. You don't owe me anything. If you see me on the street, you don't have to say hello. He said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but something tells me I'm supposed to do this. And he walks out of the Starbucks, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I didn't open it, because I'm like,
what just happened?
Is this? And then I open it, and it's a check for $10,000.
Wow.
And then I was just like, holy smoke. It was just the most, because at the time I had just left a physically abusive relationship, drug dealer, same thing, drive-bys. It was just, and I felt like the world that I was living in was just punching me in the face,
right.
And it was and I was still, I was homeless, and I didn't have a place to live. And then it was just, hey, if you have the person that created this world on your side, then it doesn't really matter what's happening around you.
Yes.
And so I paid for my video, and I got everything that I needed to do. So, this is a long story, but the future me would remind me of what it's like to walk in faith. Continue to walk in faith. Never think about the restrictions that you have of this world, because this world's not real. This world is just the product of whatever you've created in your mind, or whatever limitations you've given yourself. So continue to walk in that faith, and you're so powerful. We all are.
Yes,
what I mean? We all are, but you have to really believe it. And yes, some of it has to make sense logically, but some of it won't. Some of it will just work because you believe it will. So that would be my future self, for sure.
So you told your past self something that was powerful. Your future self told you now something that is powerful. I don't want the audience to feel left out. So what could you share with the audience that you think they should hear? What one thing would you share with them that you think could be powerful for them to hear?
I think mostly it's stop thinking that you need everything to be right to get started. It's work with what you have. For me, I didn't have Wi-Fi. I didn't have high ticket. I didn't have anything that cost a lot of money. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have, a cell phone that, I didn't have cell phone service. I didn't have a car. Right. And I could have let those things hold me back. And I think so many people out there are thinking, I don't have this, so I can't do this. I don't have this. But back to be very aware of the questions that you ask yourself. Don't ask yourself if you can do something. Ask yourself how you can do something.
Yes, 100%.
That's what I think the questions you ask yourself are so important. Ask yourself the right questions and ask yourself how you can do this, even without those things. How can you do it even if you don't have whatever it is that you think you need? There's always a way to make it happen. So
that's so powerful. Kristine, I want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being so genuine and so willing to share your story. How could the audience find you if they want to learn more about you and what you do and how you help maybe people in their circumstance where they are? Like, how could they reach you?
I have my social media is Kristine Mirelle. Everything is, Instagram, Facebook, and then I have my website, KristineMirelle.com. And then for musicians, I have musichustler.com. That's actually my name brand. And then for my ads, I have laughmyadsoff.com.
Laughmyadsoff.com.
Yeah. So I got lots of domains. I know I just threw out a whole bunch out there, but
no worries. They'll be in the show notes, so
okay.
everyone will be able to pick them up.
All right, awesome.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Kristine, again, thank you for being so genuine and being so willing to share. It's been a true pleasure having you on the show, and this has just been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for you, I know for a fact, 100%, you've absolutely loved this episode. That means you need to click the subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss what comes next. My name is Edward Collins, and this has been Entrepreneur Unleashed. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Wow, that was so powerful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. You're the one who did all the work.
No, those were great questions, though. I think, leading, like listening
the answers
to people
were the better.